All right, I'm Bobby Burton. This is CJ Vogel joining us from the depths of DKR, underneath the actual parking lot area inside DKR where the coaches and administrators park. CJ, you were on campus today because Steve Sarkisian had his first official press conference of the 2024 season, previewing and breaking down Colorado State. Good stuff there, CJ. I thought it was a very meaty MEATY press conference. Sark went in depth on a lot of different topics, CJ, but he really started off talking about his approach to Colorado State and what he thinks he's going to do this weekend, given that it's going to be pretty darn hot in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if there's anybody, Bobby, that likes Saturdays in the fall as much as Steve Sarkisian. Of course, he's amped up. He talked about the pageantry and the passion. Those are the two words that we hear him use all the time to describe college football, specifically down here. And I think I don't know if he had a checklist or not, but he mentioned Bevo Boulevard, Smokey the Cannon, obviously Bevo, everything that goes on, Longhorn city limits, the whole, 9 yards of a game day down here in Austin is what gets him excited for playing down here in Austin. And of course, Saturday will be a great opportunity for him to display this 2024 football team down for the Texas Longhorns. It's going to be hot. We know that. It's hot right now. That's why I'm in the shade somewhere in this parking garage, Bobby. But the plan for Texas is if you're in the two deep, you will be playing at some point this upcoming Saturday for the Texas Longhorns. There was actually a comparison that Steve Sarkisian had in terms of the Rice game a year ago around this time, right? It was very hot. It was a 230 kick. He said they used 32 to 33 defensive players alone in the first half. He says they'll probably use a number very similar to that. One thing that he and his staff will be looking for, with probably under a fine comb right now, Bobby, is take away the mental mistakes, right? Line up correctly. Don't have any illegal men downfield. Don't have any offsides. Don't have any false starts. Don't have any block in the backs, right? It's all about the mental approach. Make sure that you're mentally prepared for this game and the season to begin, and that will set the tone going into the Michigan game week 2. But, of course, that's what this staff will be looking for right now. Of course, again, if you're in the two deep, you will be on the field at some point, and Sarkisian was asked if we'll see Arch Manning. He said, we will see. So he left that up to chance, and, of course, should Texas take care of what they're capable of doing on the field against Colorado State, we'll see Arch Manning this weekend.
Let's go to Steve Sarkisian now. Our producer, Matt Hutchison, has some video for us from this morning's press availability, and then we will get back to some other things Sark said. But, Matt, please roll that tape.
What an exciting time. Anytime you're kicking off the football season, you can kind of feel the excitement in the air. We had the Gone to Texas event last night with President Hartzell right there at the tower, and over 9,000 incoming freshmen there, and I think the largest incoming freshman class or something. So it's really cool. The fact that season tickets are sold out again. Like I said, the buzz on campus. I love game days. Even when we first started the hotel, but I love the fact of walking down Bevo Boulevard and seeing everybody there and seeing the parents of our players, the excitement they have in their eyes, all the way through pregame. That stuff is super cool. I know there's a lot of really cool things that are happening this season. Obviously, the 100th year anniversary of DKR, which is a tremendous honor to be the head coach to play in the 100th season here. When you think about all the great teams and the great players and the great coaches and the moments that have occurred in the stadium, we have an opportunity Saturday to honor our entire athletic department for the Directors Cup. We have an opportunity to honor all the national championship champions this season. And then we also have an opportunity to honor all the Olympians from Paris this past summer. So a lot of cool things happening Saturday. But the coolest thing is we get to play football again. And we're excited for it. We've got a very tough opponent. Coach Norvell has done a really good job of building that program back up at Colorado State. They were, I know they're 5-7 last year, but there was a lot of close games that could have went either way. They've got a very explosive offense that likes to throw the ball around, a dynamic receiver in Torrey Horton, as well as him being a kick returner, a veteran offensive line with a couple of grad transfers, a very veteran defense with two really good safeties, all conference safeties that have played a lot of football. and a very intricate special teams unit. Very well coached team. They tax you mentally as well as tax you physically. And this is going to take a great week of preparation from our players, not only physically but mentally, because they're going to get challenged in all three phases.
All right, that was Steve Sarkisian just moments ago. CJ Vogel there live. He's actually in the dungeon that is beneath the stadium right now, where administrators and coaches park at times at game days and other times. One of the things that Sark talked about when he was talking about how much he liked the game day atmosphere, he actually said he's converting some of his other coaches. The anecdote he gave about Chris Jackson, the wide receiver coach, Sark a year ago had said, hey, this is something special when you get to experience game days on Saturdays in college football. And Chris Jackson, who went to Washington State and what have you, he said he finally came up to Sark this year and told Sark, you know what, I agree with you a little bit as well, right? And so there's that kind of thing. All right, let's talk about some more things that Sark went on and discussed today. CJ, before we do that, I need to say thank you to our sponsor. Our sponsor is Allegiant Digital Marketing. If you're a business owner who struggles with any of the following: finding new customers, consistent leads, finding marketing services, and to promote your business that actually work, give CEO and founder Chad Markham with Allegiant Digital Marketing a call. He has helped thousands of business owners just like you for more than 25 years conquer these very same challenges. So if you're ready to start making money in your business and grow with confidence, visit allegiantdigital.com/on Texas football. CJ, the first thing that comes to my mind when Sark talked about this, he talked about the depth chart and what he sees as the actual depth chart going into this game. It's not just a first string, it's a second string, and then he's going to figure it out from there. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned previously, upwards of 30 players a year ago on the defensive side of the ball playing against Rice at this time in the season opener. Of course, it's going to be hot. We've talked about that. Texas has been preparing for the heat and kind of that humidity that they'll face Saturday at 2:30. But more so than that, Bobby, I mean, that's the offensive side of the ball and kind of the depth that Texas has at its disposal there. It's 9 offensive linemen who are all chomping at the bit. They got 5 guys right now that they feel good about, but they got 3 or 4 guys beyond that they feel could be starting caliber players for the Longhorns this year. The interesting note is that wide receiver. And he said, we're going to rotate a lot of players. We're going to be up to 6 or 7 guys, depending on how we see fit currently. And we're going to see how they match up with one another on the field. It's not just finding the right pieces. Of course, that rapport with Quinn, that connection with Quinn is very important. But how do they work and kind of complement one another on the field when they're there together? That's going to be a big key in which they go about monitoring the game film when they dissect it in the film room afterward. And, of course, seeing it play out on the field Saturday against Colorado State, a team that's obviously not their own defensive backs and know the tendency of what they like to run in practice. That's going to be one of the big takeaways that this staff takes from the season opener and obviously, kind of employs that against Michigan week 2.
It sure sounds to me from listening to Steve Sarkisian in this press conference today that they are planning to platoon wide receivers. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about full units. Like these 3 guys go in with these 3 guys in the first half, and then let's play it by ear a little bit. That's what it sounded like to me from listening to him, and that's what we've been reporting was likely to happen this year as well, CJ. So I look at it right now, and it sounds like they're ready to platoon there. They're ready to platoon at possibly defensive end as well, maybe safety in corner along with the star position. They're going to play a lot of players. One guy that, when I wrote an article for On Texas Football this morning saying I was hearing that I didn't know yet who the punter would be. I think Sark gave us a real clear indication of who the punter is actually going to be with the response he had today. What do you agree? Do you agree with that? And tell folks who it is.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of felt like he tipped his hand a little bit there with Michael Curran potentially being the starting punter for the Longhorns this upcoming Saturday. Of course, he said he's going to be on the field and then kind of retracted and said, well, I hope not very much, right? He doesn't want to be using that punter all too much, but he did say he has the utmost confidence. He and Jeff Banks Feel very good about where Michael Curran is in his development. Of course, Ian Ratliff has made this a very tight race. Texas didn't go out this summer and add a punter from the portal or the grad transfer ranks, who we'll talk about Velton Gardner here in a minute because I did ask him about that. But he did say he has a lot of confidence. He's put a great boot to ball this fall, and certainly someone that he expects to go out there and, once he gets the hang of it, be a really strong weapon for this Texas special teams unit.
Yeah, he said he had confidence in the young punter from St. Thomas Aquinas down in South Florida. Apparently going to be the starter, it sounded like, just from that thing.
Yeah.
Another focus of Sark, you mentioned it at the outset, was minimizing mistakes early season. That really matters to him. They did not play a clean game per se against Rice a year ago in the first game, so they had a lot of things to change and make up ground for the Alabama game, if you remember that, and actually did so very well. But Sark wants to come out a little cleaner this year in 2024 than he did in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about it. The theme of the Alabama games over the last 2 years has been penalties. Just Texas was on the other side of the penalties, right? You look back at when Alabama came to Texas week 2, I think they set a record for penalties set under a Nick Saban coach team there. And as a result, they squeaked out a win by a point, in which they were 22 or 23-point favorites coming in. That cannot be the case that Texas has going into Ann Arbor, right? You cannot go to the defending champions home and play a sloppy game. And to have that momentum and that mindset week 1 to carry over week 2, it's very important. Sarkeesian wants to make sure that his team is mentally prepared to go out there, play a clean football game, not just to the game plan and the scheme, but penalty-wise as well.
I've got breaking news that just came in to me. This a tweet from Brian Davis, who works for the university, used to be a reporter for the Austin American-Statesman. Word comes that Edith Royal, the widow of Texas coach Darrell Royal, passed away this morning. She was 98 years old. Mrs. Royal was kind to me and everyone else. Brian Davis says, love the Longhorns, rest in peace. That is Darrell Royal's widow, Edith Royal, passing away earlier today. Hate to hear about that from Brian Davis. All right, guys, I want to keep on the topic here, and we will talk about Edith Royal later, because I actually have a great story about her from back when I was just I was your age at that time, CJ, when I first met her. Hey, I've got to say this. One other thing that Sark mentioned, he said, with Arch, we'll see whether or not he plays in the first half. We'll see. How did you take that, being in the room there with Sark earlier today?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all expect to see Arch at some capacity in this game against Colorado State. How early, I think, is the big question, right? He mentioned everybody in that 2 deep on both sides of the ball. Likely will get some time in that first half. He didn't include Arch Manning there, but he did say we will see how early he does get into the football game. I think it'll be, of course, 2 things. How quickly does Quinn and the offense get out to a lead? And 2, how does Quinn look early on in the game? Is it something in which, all right, I've seen enough, he's looking great, they're firing on all cylinders, let's get the young kid some reps? Or 2, does he need to stay in the game a little bit longer to find that rhythm, to find that rapport with the wide receivers? Of course, going into Michigan and the other non-conference games is going to be important that Quinn is on the same page with the Isaiah Bonds, the Ryan Wingos, the Silas Boldens, the Matthew Goldens, etc. in that room. But I do expect to see Arch Manning at some point. Of course, Texas choose Malik Murphy, probably not as much as they would have liked earlier in the year. Of course, Wyoming and Rice, they weren't out to these big leads early, Bobby. As a result, you didn't get Malik Murphy some of those big snaps, snap counts, opportunities to throw the ball early in the year. Luckily, unfortunately, it paid off regardless. But you'd like to get your backup quarterback, get his feet a little bit wet early in the year, just in case you need him at some point later on.
One more topic I got to ask you, because you actually asked this question. I heard you talk about it. The running back position, with the addition of Velton Gardner over the weekend, young man late last week, out of SMU by way of Kansas, by way of Dallas Skyline High School. He's actually rushed for more than 1,000 yards in his college career, but he's never been the go-to back. What did Steve Sarkisian say, not only about Gardner and his addition, but also the running backs as a whole.
Yeah, he's going to have a seamless transition into this running back room. That was the word that he used. That transition will be smooth. He's a veteran guy. He has a lot of experience running the football. Obviously, 5 years of football already played. Bobby, he knows what the grind is like. There are two things, right? The number one thing is the way in which he runs the football fits what Texas wants to do. Kind of that slasher type. He has great hands out of the backfield. Sarkeesian actually mentioned that a few times that I made note of during the interview. And then, of course, the way that he plays and the style in which he plays fits exactly with that room right now. Kind of that Trey Wisner, Jaden Blue mold right now. He's going to fit that room, of course, very well, adding depth in the game and certainly during the season. The other thing is Sarkeesian was asked about the injuries to C.J. Baxter and Christian Clark and whether or not, Bobby, that would change up the way in which he uses his running backs. And we've seen the 51-49 split or 52-48 play calling split over the past few years in favor of the run game. Would that change up the way that he calls his games or the way that it kind of is called for the running backs? Sarkeesian said no, and he said it very bluntly. He said they're going to run between the tackles, and they're going to run between the tackles because that's the way that they've been trained. So for Jaden Blue, for Trey Wisner, for Jarrett Gibson, those guys will be using or be used in the same manner that we've seen from a Jonathan Brooks, a Bijan Robinson, and Roschon Johnson.
I've got someone here posting on the site. Rob Enfield says 121 hours until kickoff. I think everybody is ready. CJ, I know you got to get back because some players are actually going to have availabilities now. Anything else you want to add that you heard from Texas football coach Steve Sarkisian today?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's all about the confidence, and we've heard it from Sarkeesian with this team. 4 years in now, only 5 players remain on this roster, Bobby, who he did not recruit. I think that's worth noting to make it feel like it is more of his team. And he kind of laughed at the idea that it is his team, but he does say, it does take on the personality of him. He's the one that kind of rows the boat. He's the one that kind of steers them to daylight, if you will. Of course, he feels great about the leadership committee. One quote that I loved from him this afternoon was, "Our culture will win us football games." And of course, he pointed out that a year ago, out of the 12 football games that Texas played in, 8 of them had a 1-score deficit or lead in the fourth quarter at some point during that ball game. That culture and that leadership, who he says is now up to 20 to 30 guys that have been in the program for 3 or 4 years, that he feels great about being asked to be a leader for this team. That's going to be a big part of this Texas personality in 2024. Very confident in their ability to get things done on the field, even when facing some adversity.
All right, we've got the winning drive coming up at 3:15. Jarrett, you, CJ, as well as Rod Babers and Bob Shipley will be on there. You'll be having a conversation about what you heard further in depth, and also be taking questions from folks on the chat line, as well as what you hear from the players that are available to the media later today. Again, that's at 3:15. Our condolences go out once again to the Royal family. Edith Royal passing away at age 98. I am being told that Steve Sarkisian did talk about that. I did not hear that part, but look, hope that the Royal family is okay. Lived a long, fruitful life, in my opinion, and one of the real treasures of the University of Texas today. All right, CJ, like we said, 121 hours left, 5 days remaining. We're almost ready. Steve Sarkisian, can't wait. The guys were practicing this morning. Get back out there and talk to some of those players and see what else you can drag up for us. Looks like Michael Kern will be the starting punter, and Sark focused on minimizing mistakes in game 1 and playing a lot of players. That really those are the major takeaways from today's press conference for Steve Sarkisian. All right, for CJ Vogel and our producer Matt Hutchison, I'm Bobby Burton. This has been an On Texas Football Breaking News Report. Have a good one.